Morning.
How you doing?
Hi, Al.
Good morning,
Mr.
Ellen.
Kirchner.
You guys, it's why I failed being an astronaut. When you guys talk, I got to find the mute to unmute myself, and I'm too slow. And that's how I flunked out of astronaut school.
Yeah, that's not
reaction
true.
Hey, you guys are live.
Good morning. The Audit Committee is now called to order, and I have 8:05 a.m. And on the roll call, I'd like us all to just introduce ourselves for the benefit of our soon-to-be new member, Julia Donnelly. So I'll go clockwise. Al, if you could start.
Good morning, Julia, and welcome aboard. I've been with the Audit Committee for, I think, about 2.5 years, and look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim?
Good morning, I'm Jim Cardillo. I serve as the representative from the Financial Advisory Commission, which I sit on, to the Audit Committee. So that the FAC appointment is a 3-year term that began in late 2018. So I'll be on the Audit Committee. I'll be the Audit Committee rep as long as nobody else wants to do it.
Alderwoman Rhonda Pendle-Charles.
Yes, thank you, Alderwoman Tierney. Rhonda Pendle-Charles, Napa City Council, Ward 3, and I've been on the Audit Committee since its inception, and I've been on the council since December 2013.
Nice to meet you.
City Manager Jarrell.
Hi, Julia. David Jarrell, City Manager.
And we have City Attorney Michael Lyles. We're asking you to introduce yourself to our new member, Julia.
Good morning, Ms. Donnelly. Mike Lyles, City Attorney.
Nice
I've
to
been
meet you.
here. I've been here just a little under a year.
Okay.
And behind the scenes, we have Hillary, who isn't unmuting.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And then Kim is our staff liaison. Kim, are you there?
Good morning.
Good morning.
And then we have Director Archie Trader, Parks and Recs, who will be speaking to us today.
Good morning, Julia. Archie Trader, Rec and Parks Director. I've been here for a little over 13 years total, just about a little over 3 years as Director.
Thank you.
And I'm Alderwoman Ellie Tierney. I'm Alderwoman of Ward 1 and acting chair today while Alderman Fred Payon, I believe, is in physical therapy. He'll be here around 9:30, I think. So you'll have to bear with me for a bit. So with that, I'd like to move to the next item on the agenda, which is the review and approval of today's agenda. There might be a little confusion because we got a few revisions, but Jim?
A question, Madam Chair. Can we move on the agenda? Can we move item 6, old business, to in front of item 5, the educational topics?
Is that a motion? I mean, I would.
Yes. Can we? Yeah, I move to modify the can we modify the agenda to move? I move that we modify the agenda to move old business ahead of educational topics.
Okay, any discussion or well, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? I'll just say I think that's a great idea because we do want to address this and come to some path forward on that subject.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll call that to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye by show of hands.
Aye.
Okay, motion approved.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the review and approval of the minutes that Kim provided to us dated October 19th, 2020. Could I entertain a motion to approve the minutes?
Kirchner moves.
Second.
All in favor by show of raising hand?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we will move up old business, and I'll recommend to Alderman Payon that we do that from now on. Follow up on Department of Recs and Parks audit. This is R17. No, that's not correct. We're just going to be talking about the Parks and Recs audit. And I just want to make sure that everybody received the latest revision. Well, it's not really a revision of that. It came from the city manager because it's a comprehensive review of it by the city manager and the director of finance and director trader. I have here, it was sent this over the weekend. It doesn't have a date on it. Tisk. But let's see, it starts with let's see. Recommendation number 1, the management response should read, a new card printing system is needed, et cetera, et cetera. Does everybody have that copy?
Yes.
You want me to
Okay.
share it on screen, Alderwoman?
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
Well, it's really up to Director Trader, whatever he's comfortable with, or whomever's going to present it. Is that going to be you, Director Trader, or David?
It'll be Director Trader. I can add in as needed,
You'll
but
tag team it?
Director Trader will be responding.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay.
Yeah.
Apologies
I have a hard
for
time.
the first names.
Question,
All
Chair.
right,
Question, Chair.
Director Trader, it's your show. So what we'd like to do is go through it as efficiently as we can, and then conclude on path forward at the end of your presentation.
Okay. You want me to go through each item?
If you're comfortable doing that briefly.
Okay.
Does everybody
Go
agree
ahead.
with that? Any objection to that, or? Go ahead, Jim.
Sorry, the way I see it is, a lot of these may not be relevant. If Director Trader and Mr. Jarrell can tell us which are the ones that are most salient and relevant to our operations, that they feel are worthy of consideration for implementation, not necessarily implemented, but consideration. Or did these outside consultants identify things that maybe we hadn't thought about? So I was looking kind of more for a general feel for the recommendations, and then dive into the ones that we feel are most valid. I think in the efforts of time for everybody, if some of them are irrelevant or not applicable to our situation, let's just skip it.
Well, starting.
Comment. I have a comment. Al Kirshner here.
Yes, Al.
I would like to go through these one by one. I'm sorry, Jim, but
Okay.
I would just like to see, as you wrote in an email, do you concur? What is, if you don't concur and you can present an argument that, why you don't concur or why it's irrelevant, that's fine. But I'd like to know that every one of these were considered, and to get the feedback. I mean, I also have a front end question, since we're going to come into this. There are several where, I'll bring it up at the time. So
Yeah.
I'm done. Thank you.
Yeah, I think what we're dealing with here is sort of a belated review. I did some of these things are not applicable because obviously we have a new pool facility, so we'll just try to go through those quickly, but so that we have a little bit more time on the ones that are still applicable. So
Good point.
all right, Director Trader, would you like to just go through them as you see applicable and as efficiently as you think?
Okay, at the Pitmore, these are the description of the recommendation. I'll read first, and then I'll read our response from management. The Pitmore Recreation Center should issue membership cards. That's moot. We have pictures on the screen when members swipe their cards, so their picture comes up on the screen. For Pitmore Recreation Center access, issue Civic Rec accounts. Have pictures. That's redundant. We have a whole new system. So we wouldn't really need any new system to provide membership cards, because as I described, these pictures appear on the computer screen as they swipe their cards.
Okay.
At the Truxton Park pool, have members membership cards with pictures. Once again, in order to have a picture come up on the screen, you have to have a membership. This past season, we were not implementing memberships at the pool. Therefore, pictures would not appear. But once we develop some type of membership or some type of season pass, then those pictures will come up on the screen at the pool.
So, and I'll put this out to my colleagues as members. This, I would say then that this is implemented, or do you have any discussion about that?
Commissioner with a comment.
Well, keep in mind, when this audit was done, Civic Rec was not in place. Class was in place. So it was a different system. So
Right.
they were making their audits based on that system.
Yeah. So I think if we look at the first three as a group, I think the objective is that there's an identification process where the member's picture is shown. I'll put it out for any sort of clarification questions.
Commissioner with a comment. I concur with the thinking on all three of these.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I feel very comfortable.
Yep.
Yeah,
Anyone
that's good.
else?
Yeah, I guess it points out that the recommendation from the outside firm was valid enough that it was implemented through a new system that the city was in the process of implementing, just while the audit was being performed. So
Yeah.
it's good that both management and the audit firm thought that this was a good thing and it was implemented. So
Yeah.
I like the fact that there's agreement there.
A little bit of housekeeping. Who's recording this? Or how are we documenting this, this report? Is that, I don't know if that's, is that a minutes thing, or I can do it as with my notes.
I think Kim's doing that. She keeps the minutes, and she keeps very comprehensive and detailed
okay.
minutes.
Okay,
So
good.
I think she will. I think just one comment for number 3. The reason why we said partially is that we want the full functionality that we have at Pitt Moyer Rec Center also at the pool, and we don't have that quite yet. So it won't be exactly the membership cards with pictures, but it'll be a system similar to Pitt Moyer. But we need to do a bit more work to have that full functionality at the pool. So that's
Okay.
why it says partially. I guess we'll have to figure out what language we want to use for these, because implemented, even though it says no, we feel like we've addressed the issue.
Rest.
But what the recommendation was so that's odd language to use, because it feels like the implementation is still pending. So maybe we can figure out what word we want to put there instead of no, right?
Yeah, I just think it's not applicable due to system upgrade. Yeah, a question with regards to this, Mr. Gerald, will there be a response issued to Zelenkowski, or even something to thank them for their report and to say that we will consider the recommendations made? I mean, is there a response that is
Yeah,
forthcoming?
Jim, absolutely there will be. And so this is still work in progress. You'll see some of these items we're saying we still need to do work on. So when we have a final report and feel like it addresses all, we'll definitely respond back to them and thank them for the recommendations, but also provide feedback to them.
Thank
Will
you.
that also go on the city site?
I think
It can,
Gosh.
yeah.
Kirshner here with a question.
upon I'm not sure.
I think we could post it.
Yeah.
Why
Both the report and the response.
Yeah. Once they're final.
Yeah, I mean, we actually don't owe a contractor any response. We owe the citizens the response.
I would suggest out of courtesy. I mean,
Yeah, thank you.
Second question here, Kirshner. I'm now a little unclear. Are we actually going to photo cards with photos on them at some point?
No, Civic Rec stores a photo in the system. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, David. I apologize.
Go ahead, Archie. You want to address that? The picture of the person pops up when they're checking in.
Yes, absolutely. Every time a person swipes their card, their picture comes up on the screen.
Right, I understand that, and that's fine with me. What I'm curious is, are we going to issue new cards with a picture, which would seem like redundant and unnecessary?
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's all right. But I'm feeling the same thing. It's totally unnecessary. We don't need cards. And besides, people lose their cards, they get damaged, and they come in, they need them replaced, and so on and so forth. And with this new technology, we just avoid all of that type of stuff.
So what happens? You come in and you say your name or something, or what?
They have a card.
Okay.
And they swipe it.
Right.
And on a particular piece of technology, and the front desk person is sitting at the desk, and they look at the screen, and their picture pops up on the screen, okay, along with all their information.
Yeah, I just thought I heard you say that you're going to do away with the cards because people lose them. That's why.
Oh no! It's not necessary to have cards with pictures on it because they lose them.
Okay, I agree.
I've been around this business for a long time.
Yeah.
Before this type of technology was out, and that was always a big problem.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I just want to introduce a little bit of housekeeping. Who has to leave at 9:30? I just want to see if we can go till 10, or Jim, what time do you leave?
I can do 10 if necessary. Yes.
Okay. I just want everybody to sort of get a read on time here, is that we have two big subjects. We have this, and then we also have the performance, the resolution to approve the performance standards that the city attorney Lyles is also here for. So I'd like to devote a good hour on this at the most, and then the remainder on the rest of the agenda items, just to weigh our responses accordingly. And that's to me too, because I can be long-winded. And if Kim is revising this, I don't know how much liberty. Kim, are you familiar with this? Is it Excel, or it is Excel? Because I'd like to change that column to read, in lieu of implemented action, or that suggest that in lieu of implemented action, so that one column can either address not applicable, or anyone discussion on that?
Good.
Okay, I think I'm able to talk. This is Kim. Can you hear me?
Oh, yay.
Okay. Okay. Maybe I've been breathing heavily. I'm not sure. I was not under the impression I should be changing the grid per se, but if my minutes or my notes would reflect how you would want management to change the grid.
Okay.
Is that basically what we're saying here? Because if you want column titles changed, I'll take notes to that effect, that you would like column titles, reworded.
So who updates this?
I think it's Jody and Director Trader who have the responsibility, unless I'm actually being assigned something. I'm not sure. Jody's not here to tell me to do this. So what do you say, Mr. Gerald?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, ultimately they will, but I'm making notes on my grid as well. So we'll get it updated.
Kirshner with a comment. One thing that would help is where it says management response. I think the first words in each one of those should be concur or non-concur. So if, it would put that in some sort of perspective, and then departments involved and implemented, would follow along. You say not implemented or whatever. I think this sheet probably needs a little more refinement as we go down. We get some time under our belt.
I think the form.
I have a question.
Is up to management.
Okay.
Mr. Kirshner. Oh, thank you, Alderwoman Terry. Mr. Kirshner, are you saying that it should have concur or not concur and don't have the text part of that in management response?
No, I just said the first words should be concur or non-concur.
In the response part or the
Yeah,
title part?
In the management response.
Okay. Well, what I tried to do
I'm
is
I'm confused. I'm confused.
Why are you
Well,
confused?
I think I understand what Al's looking for. All he's looking for is at the very beginning of the management response, before the text, to either say concur or not concur, and then launch into the full management response. that we have.
Okay, okay. I thought he was saying discard the narrative. Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay,
okay. Yeah, I understand that.
okay. And let me just try to keep a little order here. Let me call on you so we're not all speaking out of turn. I'll try to see you all, but and the other, to respond to that, we can always add columns to make it, the objective is to make it as clear and concise as possible. And if we need to add a column, we'll add a column. Okay, so Director Trader, number 4.
Yes, add cameras to cash handling areas at Truxton Park. Cameras are in place at the cash handling areas at Truxton Park. Add cameras to cash handling areas at Waterworks Park. Cash handling areas do not exist at Waterworks Park, so that's unnecessary. At Waterworks Park, install a system and access points for users. Scan a pass. They do not have passes to enter the Waterworks Park. They actually have permits in which they pay for at the Pip Moyer Recreation Center, at which time they are given the combination to the gate, and they proceed from there. I do want to add to that in terms of the response. We do have a ranger there, a part-time ranger that's there for about 4.5 hours per day.
Any questions? Okay, so we.
Yes,
Okay.
Kirshner, a question.
Yes.
So they're given a combination. I guess my question is, what protects the distribution of that combination?
We change it every month. If they can come and purchase a 1-day permit and a monthly permit and a yearly permit.
Mm-hmm.
But the combination changes every month.
So if you buy a daily permit, you could actually use it for 30 days if you wished.
Yes, sir.
And what would the cost be to do some sort of scan pass?
I haven't investigated that. I don't recommend that at Waterworks Park. Are you familiar with Waterworks Park?
I am not.
Yeah. It's a very remote area. What we tried to do in the beginning is to really keep the population down. I mean, David, you can comment more than I can because I've just been in director for 3 years, but I would assume that we didn't want to open this park up to the masses. So we had to have complete control over the regress and ingress of the park. I would recommend highly that you take a trip there. It's only about 15 minutes outside the city.
It's right up by the reservoir. It's gotten a little more publicity now due to the pandemic in terms of people exploring it because it's pretty remote and you don't see a lot of crowds.
Well, my question is, if we're trying to keep people minimize its use, it seemed that we would want to really minimize the access to only those who have paid the proper amount. No?
Yes, and they can only do that by coming to the Pip Moyer Center and paying for the permit.
Right, but I'm saying after if you go for a 1-day permit, you can basically use it for the rest of the month. Is that true?
No, you're not supposed to. So we leave it upon them as good Samaritans in good faith, I guess. I see your point. It needs to be refined, if to keep people from using it over and over and just paying once. So that's something that we have to figure out, and that is a good point.
Okay. Would you amend your input then?
Pardon me?
Would you amend your input to that finding?
Yes, I will.
Thank
Yes, I
you.
will.
Thank you.
City Manager Gerald, you had your hand up.
I guess a couple of things. One is, as Archie said, this is a remote park that gets pretty light usage. There's not a big demand, although the demand has increased because we about a year ago finished a hiking biking trail that runs from Housley Road through this area all the way to Honeysuckle Lane across this property. It's about 800 acres. So we get more people out in the area, which causes even more difficulties in trying to control who uses it because, you know, that hiker biker trail is free. So you can access it, as I said, from Housley Road and travel into this area without any controls. So I think the city needs to kind of look holistically at how we operate this small area. It's a really small area right by the Annapolis Dam, which that used to be our water source, is the impoundment behind the dam. It hasn't been since about 1920, but it's a really great resource out there for people to fish and to hike. But it's very difficult to control access of people that want to get in there. There's a lot of other ways to get in other than that front entrance. So we probably need to look at that. But this is such a small amount of use that we have to figure out, you know, what the cost versus benefit is of putting a lot of money into trying to control access out there.
Kirshner with a comment, please.
Yes, Sal?
I agree, City Manager. I mean, what I would think this recommendation would trigger is a complete look and say, maybe it's not even worth bothering, you know, forget the padlock and forget the fees. I don't know how much money we make on it, but to take a more global look at what we want to do out there, develop a plan and do it. Thank you.
Yes. Once again, good point, and we'll take that into consideration and we'll figure it out. The next one is childcare at the at the Stanton Community Center. The Stanton Community Center does not have a childcare program, so that's not applicable. Is there anyone on the phone unfamiliar with the Stanton Community Center? Okay, moving on. Pitmore Recreation Center Management would perform periodic reconciliations between the facility rental calendar and the revenue to ensure reasonableness.
Thanks, Hillary.
Pardon me. Thank you. All the rentals are paid in full, upfront, or before rentals take place. So no balances are on the accounts after rental, period.
Any questions?
Okay, perform an analytic procedure over the revenue earned from facility rentals during the year. Well, that's finance. I'm sorry. That's a finance question. Add cameras to the registers. Processing payment.
Excuse me, Director Trader. David, City Manager Jarrell, are you able to respond to 13, or do we need Jody for that? The analytic procedure?
Yeah, so they're just saying, even though we're paid up front, that there should be some testing that's done in finance. I think a lot of the finance department items are going to require additional efforts by the finance department staff, and I think Jody, Director Dickinson, is concerned about that because they already have full plates, and to add some additional items on that concerns her. But she acknowledges that there would be benefit in that testing that they would need to do to make sure that the events are paid for and the fees are collected.
With that, I do think it would be important when we just tweak this form is that we do add a column on any sort of budget impact, yes or no. I think that's really important to state whether or not there is a budget impact. Okay, 14, back to Pip Moyer.
Yes, there are cameras at the Pitt Moyer Center at the register.
All right, woo, okay, good, yay.
That brings my question. What I was curious is how did something like that get into the report when the equipment was in place? I mean, I see a couple places where there's a complete disconnect between the audit firm and the rec department. So I just have that in the back of my mind. I was wondering, what in the world? How can you be so far off? There's a camera sitting there. So,
I can say this, that I was interviewed as director. My management staff was interviewed that was affiliated with each description of each recommendation. So I can't answer why they would put a recommendation in place when I know the answers was to the contrary.
Well, one of the things, having been in the military and doing inspector general inspections, generally, and this is to the committee, we should include in our scope of work that the contractor outbrief the director. You know, if you're going to say you need a camera, just at least give the person who's the director of the department the opportunity to sit there and say, let me show you the camera. It's an obvious disconnect that is easy to fix. I would just say that our contractor should spend 15, 20 minutes, just go through these things. Here's what we found, and kind of a fine tune. So that's my comment on that. I think in the future we should put that in the scope of work. Thank you.
I think there might have been, just in looking at the original report, there might have been some reporting, or lack of a better word. They divided up the Pitt Moyer Center and the pool were separate, and the comment on the cameras was made specifically on the Truxton pool. I don't, but I mean, that could have happened where they didn't see cameras or didn't know about the pool. But anyway, so.
Yeah.
No, it says PMRC. 14 is about Pitt Moyer.
Yeah, that's, yeah, I don't see it in the original report is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Maybe Jim?
Yeah, I agree with Jim. It says PMRC.
My thought is, before the Zelnikovsky firm went final on this, these recommendations, I think we should have been able to throw some out. Just through review of the draft of the report, we should have been able to say, no, this is not a recommendation because this is already implemented. And like Al mentioned, the back and forth between management and Zelnikovsky should have eliminated those that are not applicable.
Yeah, I think some lost in translation here. Okay, so 15, Director Trader.
I have a comment.
Sorry, there you are.
That's okay.
Alderman Pendle Charles.
It's kind of misleading because it looks like from 14, it says PMRC, but it looks like, and we don't want this to look like it's not supposed to look. Looks like a camera was installed after they came with this recommendation. And somewhere in the management response, it should say a camera was already installed when this was done, something like that to clarify it. Because one could read it and say, oh, well, they put the camera in after Zelnikovsky came by and said we needed one. So there should be some either take it off or some cleanup on the management response.
Thank you.
Kirshner concurs.
Any disagreement with that?
That makes sense to me.
Good point. Oh, Al?
Yes, I concurred. I think just putting that in past tense, a camera was already installed
subsequent to the audit work.
Yeah, or after the audit.
Yeah, so let's
Since
just,
the audit, yeah.
just a little refinement there. Thank you. Good point.
Yeah.
And that scope of work, Mr. Kirshner, should be put in there as well, like you said, some kind of review with the director before this final report.
Absolutely. I mean, these guys go prancing off and the director's wondering what the indictment's going to be, you know? I mean, it's crazy.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go straight to number 18. That's Rec and Park related.
Okay, so we're skipping over finance. Okay.
Update procedures to include that all voided transactions in Civic Rec be printed or electronically signed by a staff and supervisor. We have always had in place the front desk supervisor as well as the office administrator. They conduct and sign off on all voids at the front desk.
Alderwoman Pendle-Charles.
Mr. Trader, is that something that's has always been done?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then that should be
I'll
one of
make that-
those that says already implemented, so.
Okay, already previously implemented.
Or
Okay.
whatever language we decide to use, if it was already in place.
Okay, yeah, I think we can change that to show that it was done prior to the audit.
Well, again, can we, if we did the thing, I would say non-concur, and they're making a recommendation for something that's already in place. So in terms of it being a recommendation, I would say non-concur, this is already in place or has been in place. That's my point.
Okay.
Okay.
So for clarity, Al, is your column,
Not a column. It's just the first words in that.
okay.
In the response. So on number 18,
Uh,
I would say non-concur. This
Yeah.
policy, this plan has already been in place prior to the contractor or the prior to the audit.
Okay.
Okay.
Um,
So
I think I'm going to be a stickler here that I think what we need to think about is that we want to use this form for future reports and I think with Excel you can do sorting. So if we had a column concur, not occur, or not applicable, we can do a sort, by what's not applicable, it just would be a better working tool. I'm just suggesting that if we're, I'm keeping in mind that we want to use this format for future audits. And I just want it to be not just a so what piece of paper, but a working document. Does that make sense to anyone? Discussion?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think that's not to be done right this moment while the director's trying to give a brief. We do a working committee or something like that. As I said, this is evolving.
Yeah.
And we have an opportunity to fix it, but I'll wait till later.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, Alderwoman Pendle-Charles?
So you're saying, Alderwoman Tierney, that there should be similar language for each one as we go down the line. So if it sorts, it pops up. That's your point.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. We want it to work for us, a working document.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Director.
okay. Trader.
Yes.
Update procedures to incorporate standard explanation for voided transactions processed in Civic Rec. We do that already. Once again, non-concur. I like non-concur. I like concur. I like those words. So once we update this, we'll be incorporating those words. Okay, finance, Rec and Parks. When entering information on the membership passes, break out the types of passes in more detail in Civic Rec. Add more options for non-residents, complimentary and partial pay membership. This should allow the ability to perform more meaningful revenue analysis. Memberships are broken down, individual and non-residents. Now, I think they may want to ask, I think what they might be saying is maybe we should further break it down in terms of the type of memberships, 90-day, monthly, yearly. But I have to do some further research on that. But the recommendation, I think, is going beyond the individuals and non-residencies. Because we have individuals, we have family memberships.
Yeah.
And,
Well, that information would be helpful in marketing. I mean, you want to know when people pick up memberships, what kind, how many families, and it ought to be able to help you in your marketing. No?
That's true, because you'll have accurate statistics and data that's applicable to each individual group, and it'll give you an idea of how to market that group and what style of marketing that would be most useful.
Alderwoman Pendle Charles.
Thank you, Alderwoman Tierney. Director Trader, do you also have employee memberships?
Yes, we do, but that's free.
Okay, but still, it might be good to know if you have how many employees you have coming through as well.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, the numbers. It would be good to know the numbers. You're right.
Director Trader, this is all capable in Civic Rec, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So I think the objective, of course, is to delineate by price, and we just don't want to lose sight of the fact that we wanted to make sure we don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah, in the early going, we had a tremendous, we had some problems with Civic Rec, but they finally ironed them out. And one of those problems was online efficiency. In fact, for a long time, I think for almost 2 years, we didn't have online service to the public because they just couldn't get the software straight, but they straightened it out eventually.
Okay, good.
Okay, going to Harbor Master. Credit cards taken at the Harbor Master's office remain in the customer's possession, and card readers be brought to the customer to process the transaction. We are transitioning to a new platform that will take care of this issue. Customers read card number to employees. Employee keys the card data and the card information securely stored in the global payment, which is PCI compliant and third party. We are about 50% transition, and by December 31st, it should be complete. So that was an accurate recommendation from the Audit Committee at that time, because we didn't have this in place. I also want to add to that is that that technology, they'll be able to have a system by which they can walk to the boat on site and make that transaction as well, in addition to at the office. Any questions?
Yes, Kirshner here.
Al?
What
Yes?
does it mean 50% transition? So 50% of the transactions, 50% of the equipment?
No, the software installment.
Okay.
They're not there yet. The software, sometimes it takes time. I'm not a real expert on the computers, but it takes time to install the software and get all the mechanisms in place to finalize the system.
Okay.
I mean, this is, when was this sheet prepared? I mean, it seems to me it's been like months and we still have 2 more months to go. Or a month and a half, 6 more weeks. And I
Yeah.
have to wonder
Yeah.
why the contractor why can't Global Payments make this happen?
Well, you know, this happens sometimes. I can't explain it. I can't tell you why.
Can you get an answer?
I haven't asked the question
Okay.
to the company yet.
Yeah.
I will ask that question and I can get back to you with the answer.
Yeah. I just have to wonder what would take a contractor so long to install software. They do it remotely, I'm pretty sure. I'd guess.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Gerald, do you have an answer for us?
This is on the
Number 25?
You asking me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed that. Yeah,
That's
I don't
okay.
know what the schedule is for this, but I know that for any of these implementations that there's a front end to do the acquisition. So I don't know when they actually got started with this, but what they're talking about is that the implementation of the new system is 50% complete and it will be completed by the end of the year. What date that started, I don't know, but we can certainly find out.
Yeah. I mean, it just seems like it seems like the purchasing part has already been done.
Right.
And it seemed like once they get their money, they pull the trigger and it would happen within maybe a week at the most. That's all.
Yeah.
These systems usually are not that fast. So for example, as you all probably know from all the news, we're replacing the e-Trackit system. That's a 6 to 8 month process. So it's not a matter of just putting the software onto the system and you're ready to go. It's a lot of data movement and a lot of new standard processes and all of those types of things. So sometimes these take a bit of time.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
We may have agreed to the 12/31/20 completion. So okay, next.
Okay, this is the last one for Rec and Parks. For those of you who don't know, Harbor Masters is a part of the Rec and Park Department. So that's why I'm reading off on the Harbor Master. In the Harbor Master office, have a supervisor prepare a fee collection summary sheet and a turnover sheet form. Have this form reviewed for accuracy to ensure the amount collected agrees with the services purchased in the office. We have always done this. There's another non-concur, and we've always done this, and we'll continue to do it.
Okay. Ellie here. A little semantics here. The non-concur to me means like you don't agree. In that case, I think it would be a not applicable. Does anyone else have any comment about that?
And
I think it goes. I
Yeah.
think it can go either way, depending on what the statement is. You know,
Yeah.
because if they're recommending something, they're recommending from their vantage point or what they see at the time. And so a non-concur would be appropriate with some recommendations.
Right.
But
Yes.
for example, others like the Stanton Center's child care program doesn't exist at
Right.
the Stanton Center. So that would be not applicable.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a delineation between not applicable or not concur, because not concur seems like you're disagreeing. Julia Donnelly, you had a question?
Oh, I just had a comment because, I mean, any audit I've been through, if they put a comment on there, reply, I'd want it off. So I guess it just goes back to really, I don't know if there's a way to contact the audit firm and for them to somehow formally say, oh yeah, we made a mistake with this, or, you know, maybe the cameras weren't pointed in the right direction or something. So maybe there's more details that we're missing by not having that conversation with them. And not for Director Trader not to be able to say, hey, we have a camera pointed right here, and them to say, oh yeah, you do, somehow we missed that. I just, as a citizen looking at this, I'd want to know, like, well, why'd they write that if it's not even a problem? So I'd want them to say formally, like, we made a mistake or something. That's just my little comment and what I've been through and how I feel about audits and things like that, wanting to make sure.
Thank you. That's valuable feedback. Thank you.
Kirshner, with one more. I think again that would be solved with the contractor presenting an out brief. That's a minimum courtesy. These people have been sniffing around your department for weeks and weeks, and that's a courtesy they owe. And I would expect that I hope we put it in the scope of work so that stuff like this could get resolved with in 20 seconds and not be lingering.
Yes, and it's all hashed out before it hits the committee.
Yes.
Right. Right. Alderwoman Pendle Charles.
Thank you, Alderwoman Tierney. I have kind of a global question. These audit companies, and I'm not gonna say anything on the record. I think I already have way back. I'm gonna leave that alone. If they do an audit, say they did one for the city of Annapolis, if they were doing one for X city, would X city come and would we give a reference? Do they have asked for references when it comes to audit firms? How does that kind of work? The reason I'm asking, I mean, at some point we need to keep what they gave us in case some other city came back and asked us for reference for this group. I think that's memorialized, and I'll leave it at that. Mr. Gerald?
David?
So normally when you get proposals like this, you ask for what their past experience is, and you ask for points of contact and phone numbers at people that worked at those past projects that they did. So you can check with them to see how well the company did in the audit, which I think is what your point is how do you find out how well they do this? And do you in fact check on that? And the city usually does, because we always ask for those past experience, descriptions of the projects they've done in the past and who they work for and what their phone numbers are, so we can check back to see how they did as you're doing the evaluation of the companies.
Question?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Gerald.
Yeah.
Yeah. My question is, when we get a query from another city about how good a contractor is, what do we do? I mean, nobody wants to give a recommendation or give a bad recommendation. Isn't that the inclination?
David?
That's not the inclination at all. I can tell you, with personnel references, you have to be somewhat cautious, and I'd certainly let the city attorney address that. But when it's with companies, I don't think you have that same level of concern. I think if somebody doesn't do a good job for you, my experience is we tell them that they didn't do a very good job. So,
would it help for us? Would it help for us to put a sort of a scoring thing? In other words, almost a performance standard into our spec, into our scope of work. Was the product delivered on time? Was it considered complete? Did we agree with most of the findings? Some sort of framework, so that that the contractor will go in with the right attitude and knowing more completely what our expectation is. And in the event, and I've had many contractors that don't do a good job, and you want to be able to clearly and fairly explain why.
David?
Yeah, I would just say that especially for construction contracts, which is my greater experience here with the city, we do that. So we ask for any projects where they had to pay liquidated damages, which means they didn't finish on time. We also ask if they have any lawsuits, either pending or if they had lawsuits on those projects, which don't always indicate that there's issues with the project, but oftentimes that's a good indicator of problems on the project that led to a lawsuit. So we always ask for that type of information. We ask for the project team and what their experience is working together and those types of things as well. And if that's going to be the same team that we're going to get, or if they're going to, bait and switch and trade people out.
Yeah. Now I bring this up only because this was our first time out of the gate. We thought we did a pretty good job, and obviously there's a few lessons to be learned, and we ought to learn, just capture those. That's it. Thank you.
I have a question, because I don't think I wasn't part of the committee at the time. Did all the members review the RFP for this audit before it went out?
I can help that. I was part of the subcommittee. The RFP went out. We got back 7 responses. Brian fielded the responses. Brian has a scoring sheet that we used. We evaluated the 7. We narrowed it to 3. We presented 3 to the audit committee, and the final vote went to Zelenkowski.
Okay. Were we able to speak to the format of the audit report, or was that up to them?
The RFP was written, it was framed out, in my recollection, the solicitation was framed out by the city manager at the time. Is that anybody else's recollection? There,
Okay.
Ms. Pendel Charles, maybe you remember.
Alderwoman Pendle Charles.
The one thing I remember is I was the only one who voted against them.
Well,
You're exactly right.
I say that because my understanding is that we went from this to this courtesy of Jim Cardillo. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw this big 27-page report, and there was no way to digest it.
Yeah.
And so I used this summary format just so we could get our arms around what the report was telling us.
Yeah. Well, I'm not, I'm not familiar with audit reports as well as Julia and Jim, et cetera, and Al. But I thought that this was, a little criticism. It was like a needle in a haystack. It was repetitive, and it was almost, it was like liberal arts versus versus engineering. So that's just something that we need to work on, I think, just to make it more useful, productive, and there's nothing lost in translation, because that was a big lift you had to do, Jim, I think, to do that.
Ben, we need to go back to the solicitation. We had a lot of I think there's some areas of disappointment, some areas where we didn't think we got what we were really looking for. It's been brought up to the chair, and we really need to, as a committee, make sure that our solicitation goes out, that we revise it. We got to go back and look at it. It's the first time out of the gate. I think we tried to do a good job. I know the city manager at the time worked very hard on it. She kind of led the way because she had some experience.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it didn't, my copy doesn't even have a date on it, which I find very alarming.
Yeah.
Is that the solicitation?
No, that's the draft Zelenkowski report.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the solicitation. When we went out and got those 7 bids, and they're all over the map. I mean, it ranged from over $80,000-$100,000 down to $15,000. So it reflects to me that there was not a lot of clarity on what we were looking for. And I mean, nobody puts a bid together because they think they're going to lose. They want to win it.
Yeah.
So those are best efforts by 7 companies, a wide amount of variation, and it just is a signal to us that we got to work on that SOW, or not the SOW, the RFP, to make sure it reflects what we want. That's it.
Alderwoman Pendle Charles.
Thank you, Alderwoman Tierney. What was glaring to me was what they were offering for the price they said they could do it at. That to me was the biggest signal. And like I had said previously, my husband was an auditor for 7 years for Mercantile Bank, and I kind of know the language and the lingo and the culture. And my father used to always say, you can't go in a steakhouse with hot dog money. That's all I gotta say. And as far as Gump said, that's all I gotta say about that.
I want that in the minutes. So I guess that's another discussion about path forward on the next audit. And Alderman, with respect, Alderman Payon should be involved in that discussion. So, so the only, well, one concern I have is how we're leaving this because we didn't address the finance ones. I don't want to have to revisit this. David.
I think there's probably value in revisiting this. So we'll
Okay.
update the sheets. Hopefully Director Dickinson will be here for the next meeting so we can cover those fairly quickly. But just make sure that we're all on the same page with what the sheet's going to look like ultimately. So we'll get that updated, revised, and get it sent out to everyone so we can discuss again. Hopefully not for a full hour again, but whatever time's needed.
No problem.
Question
Yes, Al.
here. For the director, what kind of instructions did you get? I mean, we went through, I don't know how many revisions of this thing, and I was just curious if there was lack of clarity or whatever. You know, we've kind of evolved quite a bit from the first iteration of this thing, and again, I see this as possibly just, you know, not giving good front end instruction. And I think that same argument carries over when we talk about performance measures. The departments are all over the map on that. And I'm just wondering if we ought to just pause and do a little training and add a little more clarity to the instructions before we all go start running when the gun goes off. So that's my question, Mr. Trader, is what kind of guidance did you get on this paper drill?
Well, I received the document and I answered the questions based on you know, the knowledge and information that I had. And you know, I interviewed, you know, my management to get accurate to put accurate answers down. But you know, it's I thought it was kind of self-explanatory in terms of the content of the questions. Now, as redundant as they were, I still had to answer the questions. But it was not a lot of instruction involved with, I had to get a clarification on a couple of them, and Jody explained it to me, you know, very well. But I only needed a clarification on two questions, I believe. And the one question was the conciliation. I didn't know how that related to one another, and she explained that. But I thought all the other questions were pretty self-explanatory.
In the quality world, they call that opportunity for improvement, and I think we have one there. I think we just need to always make sure we have front-end instruction. We're going into new territory for our department heads. It's tying in with performance metrics and things like that, and we probably need to do a little schooling before we all jump in the pool. Thank you.
Well, and one way of doing that, I mean, you make a good point, but one way of doing that, you've got to put it in writing. Those
That's
instructions.
what I'm saying.
You know,
that's
yeah.
my point. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to put them in writing.
David?
Yeah, Al, I agree, Al, with what you're saying. I think, unfortunately, you all got to see more of the sausage making than what you normally should see, because I hadn't reviewed it when Archie sent it to the committee, and then Jody sent it out again based on hers, and I still hadn't reviewed that. So I got a chance to review it over the weekend. So process improvement opportunities are great on this right now, and we'll definitely look at that. This was the first one out of the box. So you were seeing the interim drafts and not the final drafts, and so that shouldn't have happened.
Sounds like, oh goody, I can do another flow chart. The other question I have, and a little ignorant here, is sometimes with an audit report, is there a scoring mechanism? In other words, do they score our procedures? Is that ever been part of an audit report? No. Jim?
I believe if I don't have the RFP in front of me, but I believe that the process was they were going to perform these procedures and then issue a report on, are the procedures in place accurate? And then do they have recommendations as to improving these procedures? In fact, when we got the draft report in December, I asked Jody to check it against the scope of work, and there were things that were in the scope of work that weren't even in the report. So they actually had to come back and do additional work. So yes, it was a faulty execution. It does not, though, what's the word I'm looking for? There's still some value to what they provided. It's just been minimized by their, for lack of a better word, shoddy work, I guess. I'm going to go back to Alderwoman Pendel Charles's comment. You know, that's, yeah, unfortunately, they didn't really perform up to the task, but there still may be some salient points. My final question would be to Director Trader and also to Director Dickinson and to Mr. Jarrell. Was there anything good that you got out of this? Is there anything that they noticed that make us work smarter or work better?
Good point.
No,
I think when we go to final on that, that's the question. I think that's the question the committee will have, you know, back to staff when we go final on this.
yeah, nothing just jumps out at me, to be honest with you.
Okay.
It really
It is what it
doesn't
is.
jump out at me.
No, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if there's anything of value to be gained from this, you know, that would help the committee determine how we move forward with this type of activity.
Or even
Well,
get out of the way you do things now. Yeah. David?
I think there are some things here. I wasn't involved with this process at all, and I came in late in the process, but just in reviewing these recommendations that are on your spreadsheet, I think there's some things that we can do that will improve the operation. Some of the things we've already done, so that's a positive. I'm not sure exactly what the timing is between them making the recommendation and some of these things being implemented, but clearly they were on the right track, and we've done that already. And I think some of the other things where we tie the Munis system with the new Rec and Park system would be valuable to give us additional data and additional information that we can use. So I think there's some nuggets in here that we can use and take advantage of.
Good, thank you.
That's
I have a question or a comment.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, there's some value to have what you're doing validated. It's like going to the doctor and the guy finds nothing wrong with you. You sit there and say, what the heck did I come for? You know, somebody looked at this department. The fact that they didn't find any glaring problems, I think, is worth knowing and is a value. So, you know, congratulations to Parks and Recs, or Recs and Parks, excuse me.
Yeah. Well, that's a great point. I think even it's addressing the harbor master office too. I mean, I think there's a lot of good progress that's been made. I think just to conclude on this, Kim, if you want to, if I can suggest in the minutes that you say that we'll revisit the financial responses next meeting, and then a topic of the for next agenda that we do finalize the review process for these, or discuss the review process for these, because you know, you got to understand this thing was done on, doesn't have a date, but I think I saw like 2000. No, they looked at from the period November 2017 through October 2018. I mean, that's a big delay on I think it's our part. So we need to talk about the review process next meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you agree? Do you agree? I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth. Any comment, discussion?
Concur, Kirshner.
Yes, also.
Okay. Yeah. And I'll do a flow chart. All right. Well, let's get back to the agenda. Julia, are you good on time? Because we have you last.
Okay. I'm fine, thanks.
Okay. So the next The next item is still on old business. We are going to review R17-20, but what I'd like to suggest is that City Attorney Michael Lyles speak to us first. Do you agree with that?
Chairwoman Archie, do you need me for anything else?
No, Director Trader. Thank you very, very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Director Trader.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, we have R17-20 is on the agenda, which is the annual statements of performance standards. And our city attorney is here to discuss performance standards. So I thought it would be good for him to speak first, if you all agree with that. Okay, I see nodding of heads. So with that, City Attorney Michael Lyles, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Alderwoman. I have taken a look at R1720. I helped draft it, but this is a new process for our office, and we had to ensure that the performance standards process that I was introduced to, that we were doing it in accordance with the code. The code is relatively clear. I think there is some areas for improvement because, as you might suspect, we have departments and we have offices, right? And offices are not necessarily included in this, although the Office of Law did provide a performance statement for its office. I think it's a good idea that we get in the habit of that. But we're doing it more as a courtesy, at least at this point, because it is clear that if you have an office that reports to the mayor, the performance standards may not apply to you under the code. That said, I want to leave this time for questions of me. I don't know if there's some lack of clarity on the particular code provision, R1720. If you're a department or an agency reporting to the city manager, you have to do these. And there may have been some issues or questions in the past, but it's pretty clear to us. And so R1720 just mandates that the departments and agencies reporting to the city manager do these performance statements. And we clarified also through legislation, or at least through interpretation, that they did not apply to the boards and commissions that were staffed by volunteers.
So for clarity for members, we're looking at the resolution itself, and then you have 41 pages of the standards attached. Does everyone have that in front of them? Okay. So I think one legal question, Michael, is what does this resolution, what is the legality of this resolution? What does that do? Is it enabling legislation, if you will?
Well, no. What does it do? Okay. It really basically sets forth the timeline for the council itself to make revisions or changes. Although all of the requirements of what the agencies are supposed to do is in the code, and it's relatively clear to me what we're supposed to do by January 15th of every year. The council then has a couple of months to then make any changes or revisions to it. And so I think the resolution as a force of law just moves the process, that we must start it and we must conclude it. And as a council, we must review everybody and get the changes needed so that the agencies can incorporate those changes into their performance implementation over the course of the year.
Got it.
Question.
Al.
Yes. There's been a lot of discussion. Well, there has been some discussion among the committee members, and I've talked to my alderman. I've also talked to the chair of the audit committee, and there's fairly common agreement that the first run of these performance statements, or whatever, I think that's what we're calling them, really need some work. And to Alderwoman Tierney's question, what does this piece of legislation do? It legitimizes, adopts, and confirms that that the 41 pages or 42 pages are acceptable. I think there's so much work to be done. I see no problem. Absolutely. I mean, I see what the resolution does, and that's not a problem to me. But I would also say I've been working hard behind the scenes, trying to get some help for the departments to get everybody in step. I believe, as a matter of fact, the chair asked me to find a consultant that might be able to help and conduct some training for the department heads and their program managers, so that we have legitimate and common structures for our performance statements. They really are all over the map, and they really all need a lot of work. I would hate to see the council adopt them, which says it's a done deal. Everything's according to Hoyle. So again, as far as the resolution and the language of the resolution, it's fine. The problem is that the attachment is far from ready to be adopted. And that's not a law office issue. That's back to the departments. And again, to the city manager, I think it's important that we give some front end training, that people understand what is a performance measure, how are they used. It would really be helpful. And the last comment I have is, as we proceed, we've got $25,000, and I've mentioned or discussed with the chairman of the audit committee, that's not a lot of money. It's not even enough money to do the second class audit that we just finished. We ought to invest this in some training in this area, because the audit committee's golden opportunity to contribute is to drive some measurement and change in how we look at our program. So I'd like to see at some point we consider getting some training for the departments on performance measurement. And there's a bunch of good books that are used in instructional system design that would be very, very helpful. So I'll leave it at that. Again, a little bit of front end training might have got us all in step much earlier. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderwoman Pendle Charles.
Thank you, Alderwoman Tierney. Mr. Gerald, I have two questions. Can you enlighten us a little more about this request for a consultant to come in and train department heads? And number two, as a side question, what are we using as a performance measure for boards and commissions? I know at one point they were submitting quarterly reports to us, but that never seemed to be quite organized or structured. So I know they're volunteers, but I didn't know if there was something that we could use or needed to use, and that might be a City Attorney Lyle's question. So two questions.
Yeah, I think that boards and commissions are no longer required to submit annual performance statements, is my understanding from the legislation, that's being clarified, that it's required by all departments that report to the same manager, but not for boards and commissions. So Mike, if you could shake your head or do this.
Yeah, I agree. The boards and commissions do have to give reporting to the council. Technically, the boards and commissions report to the council, the city council. So the code requirement right now is for regular reporting quarterly. At least annually would be a good idea, even if you didn't see quarterly as productive, because some of them don't meet except pro hoc, right? So you'd at least want to get an annual report, even if the code doesn't require a quarterly report. And I think there is some codification of that requirement for boards and commissions.
It's been sporadic from what I can tell over time. Never, some do it, some don't. They come quarterly, they come annually. It's just kind of all over the place. I think there needs to be some more structure when it comes to reporting by whatever the structure is, whether it's yearly, twice, once every 2 years, whatever it is. There should be some kind of structure to what we get from boards and commissions. I think that's extremely important. We definitely want to hail our volunteers, and I think that's one good way of doing it. But also, we need to know what exactly they're doing or not doing, and if it needs to be tweaked and that sort of thing. But that's kind of just my 2 cents worth. But Mr. Gerald, if you could enlighten us a little more on that consulting or whatever training that Mr. Kirshner just mentioned.
Well, let me speak first on that because I don't think you understood I may have not conveyed it properly. My conversation was with the chairman, Payon.
Yeah, I'm
Well, I was
happy
wondering
to-
if Mr. Gerald was aware. That was my question.
Oh, okay.
So I was not aware of that conversation, but we've been to the Rules Committee, the Council's Rule Committee, I don't know, 3 or 4 times to talk about the performance measures. And that was a suggestion that I made to them, is that we would greatly benefit from having a consultant come in and provide training, and also to review the performance measures that you all have that you're reviewing to lend some recommendations and to help to make those more consistent and parallel with each other. I completely agree that right now we have some performance measures that are based on input into the system, some are output, some are outcome, which is what we really want is what are the outcomes to all of the services that we provide. So if we could use this funding that's available for that purpose instead of for an audit, I think, number one, I think that would be a great idea, because I think that's much more beneficial than to use it for a mini audit. But I think the departments would really benefit from that as well. This is going to be an annual report, so we have the opportunity to improve. But that being said, we want to establish the performance measures. So as we collect data and see how we're doing, we need a track record over time. That's really the benefit of these. Are you improving performance going forward? And you use the performance measures to gauge that. And so we don't want to keep changing them every year. We want to get a good set put together that then we can keep over a number of years to measure improvements and not just change each year. So consultant would be wonderful, I think, and would be a big help to the departments.
Mr. Lyles?
Yeah, and I was informed by staff that all the boards and commissions per the code are required to submit an annual report. HACA is the only one that submits a quarterly report.
And Mr. Lyles, and I see that I've gotten the same message, but like I said, I'm going to repeat it. It's been sporadic at best, and we don't. I've never gotten any notification that, okay, it's June 30th or April 1st or whatever it is. Here we have our annual reports from our boards and commissions. Some notification to say that we got it, or it's coming, or please check this website or something. Now, I could be wrong, but I've never seen them. I've seen them coming in at times, but it's, in my estimation, it's been very sporadic. Not trying to throw anybody under the bus, just based on what I've seen.
Well, the council is in charge of the boards and commissions. So there are a couple of different ways to do this, as I have some experience with these kinds of things. The boards and commissions should report physically to the council. So as part of your annual report, it can be verbal or it can be written. The code does not specify. So you may have been getting verbal reports and didn't know that they qualified. If you want it to be a written report, then that should be stated in the code. Right now, if they just appeared before you and said what all the things that they accomplished over the year, that might suffice. So, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't ever remember receiving any kind of verbal report.
Okay.
It's submitted as a combined annual report attached to a resolution. I'm not quite sure. I don't quite understand that.
Yeah, the resolution
I'm still
is merely to accept whatever was submitted as part of your city record.
So boards and commissions, that's separate than this department performance standards, right? So that's a separate subject that would involve a code revision.
You created it separate to work in separate spheres with respect to reporting to you.
Yeah.
One does it one way and the boards and commissions do it another way.
Okay. Getting back to the performance standards, my question is, what were the, this is to David, what, I guess number one is what is the objective? And number two, what were the departments told to do? What were their objectives? Oh, there's our chair.
So there was a
keep on trucking.
There was a basic format that was put together by the old city manager that guided what it would look like. So it had columns and it had information for each of the performance measures that had to be provided. And then that was distributed with the due date, and that's what we all did. So when they came back in, Lynn Farrow, the assistant city manager, was assigned the responsibility to make sure that they were as parallel to each other and at least looked like each other in the table as possible. So she did a whole bunch of work to try to standardize them to some degree. I don't recall that there was any training provided before we prepared them. It was just sort of a standard format form that was provided.
And is there some fluidity with this, Mr. Lyles, on changing these? And our goal today was to recommend the resolution, but in so doing, are we solidifying these, or can they be fluid? Can they be modified, or is that?
Well, I think the resolution and the code section requires that you accept them and to make whatever changes you need to them in the accepting. So if you have performance measures which end up, or goals, you can change the goal. So if, for instance, the Parks and Rec say we will run a Pit Moyer Recreation Center, and the city council decides, well, that's not going to be a goal for you anymore, board it up, don't do that, just put all your energy into running a pool, the council can do that. So there are two actions in accepting the reports. Accepting the reports, the performance standards and measures as you receive them, or with changes that you see fit to make. I think everything is up to the council. You can reference the structure of the reporting. That's different, and I don't think the law or the code actually limits you to changing anything about the structure. As a matter of fact, the code doesn't really give a structure for how these things are to be submitted to you. So, the council can do what it wants to do with that.
Well,
why is the,
go ahead, Al.
No, I'm wondering why do we need a resolution? Why does the council have to approve? This is really the business of the city manager on how he runs the departments. And again, if we're gonna, as it says, that these attached here too are approved. So if there's a change, are you gonna do this all over again every time there's a change? I think it's not necessary.
Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah, I don't think the resolution is necessary. When it comes to us, we draft. We don't make the decision about what to draft as much as if it's legal to say, and this is legally sufficient. Whether it's managerially appropriate or necessary is a management decision. And when I say management, council, what tools do you need to make decisions, and city manager. And so this came to us to draft it, and we drafted it. But I don't see it as necessary for you to adopt the performance measures, because I don't see that an adoption of the performance measures is necessary. The performance measure is a management tool for you to be able to determine what is going on with the city manager department and agencies, and are they meeting those goals over time?
Thank you, sir.
So it's not really something you need a resolution to deal with, in my view.
Because we're basically, this is sort of contrary to your philosophy, if I don't want to put words in your mouth, Mr. Lyles, but we're sort of pigeonholing these by accepting these, and could the resolution just read that we have them under separate cover, if you will, and not, you know, reference all 41 pages that are obviously going to be subject to change, as we move forward.
Well, I think you're probably, if I were to think about this resolution at the 30,000 foot level, I think it is appropriate for these to become part of the city council's record of activity and actions. So I don't necessarily see them as totally unnecessary, this resolution, because other than that, they become just a tool for the city manager to move his departments along. If you accept them, whether you like what the format that they're in or not, I think it is important because it becomes part of the city's record of activities, you know, in a more formal, structured way.
Can we
So
change
that could be a reason.
Can we change 2 words at line 2 of page 2 to attached hereto are accepted without putting a value judgment on them? Approved versus accepted are 2 different things. And I hate to say approved because we know there's work to be done. So how about just saying have been accepted?
And that's why I recommended to the Rules Committee as well, because they're never going to be satisfied until we're able to get training and rework them. So I suggested that they just accept instead of approve.
That makes sense. That makes sense to me.
Okay,
We'll make that change.
excellent point, Al. Yeah. Because the other thing I was thinking of, and bear with me, is that I always think of performance as a measure of efficiency, which can equate to dollars, budget. And another way of looking at these performance standards is to set them up so that you can get some sort of efficiency ratio, you know, equate dollars to it. You know, we have this task, how much do we spend on doing this task? And that would involve probably a whole relook at, you don't want it to be a so what piece of paper. You want it to be a tool and in measurement. And right now, especially with the budget issues we have, it would be beneficial if it can be a working tool in establishing the efficiency of our departments. But it's really up to our city manager on what works for you, right? Care to comment, David?
No, I agree. We definitely, what I really agree on is we need to redo these performance measures. It was a good attempt by the departments. We're not there yet. They still require additional work. It would really benefit us to have a contractor or a consultant to help us through that, because I don't think we have a lot of expertise on performance measurement on staff right now. So I think we can do better. I think a consultant would help us with that. And so this is the first start. So.
Okay. Yeah. So for today's, I would entertain, though, getting back to the resolution. Could we have a motion on Mr. Kirchner's revision and possibly make a recommendation accordingly? Yes, Mr. Lyles.
Yeah, might I suggest another alteration, and that is in the last whereas, the word approving becomes accepting on page 1 to comport with what you change on page 2. This is line 38, page 1.
Okay. Could I ask for a motion to make those revisions, Al? Oh, you're on mute, Al.
Kirchner so moves.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor of modifying the resolution, say so by raise of hands.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Recommendation, modification approved. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution to recommend the resolution with as amended?
Kirschner moves.
Are there any other?
Second.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. All in favor of recommending our 17-20 as modified today by the audit committee? With a show of
Aye.
aye. Okay, let the record show that we have recommended the resolution with the two modifications. So we move it along. So what's the next step, David, as far as, hiring a consultant to look at them and that kind of thing? Is that going to cost money that needs to
To find
transfer?
money, to identify money and then get a RFP with the scope of services put together. So we can put that out to some firms that might be interested.
Question?
Well, I just want to catch up Alderman Payon. We were discussing that some of our money, because this is so important, that we might look at some of the money we've allocated for another audit and put it towards this. We haven't decided yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Good thought.
Al?
Well, question on, I think it was September, am I on?
Mhm.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
On September 21st, I sent a point paper proposing a kind of a work plan for the remainder of the year. And it also included a framework for interviewing department heads as part of that process. That suggests, I think there are 4 steps. One was to use our money instead of doing an audit, which we probably couldn't even do with 25,000, to bring somebody in and train the departments so we get everybody in step. Did everybody see that? September 21st, I sent that out. An email?
Yeah.
Okay, audit committee. Fred, did you discuss that with the city manager?
I have not discussed it with the city manager, but we are putting it on the agenda for December.
Okay. What's the chance of accelerating that to early December? I mean, we really need to get going on this, at least deploy it so everybody has an idea of where we're going for the year.
Well, we've got a certain date that we're reserved for, but I'm pretty sure with, given the virtual nature of the meetings, that we could probably do it almost any time we wanted.
Yeah.
Almost.
Well, I mean, to the city, Mr. Gerald, have you seen that item I've sent out?
Should have. I think he was on the copied on it.
Yeah. I don't recall. I'll have to look it back up.
All right. Yeah. It's September 21st. I'm going to resend it to you so you can take a look at it. We get some
Okay,
traction
thank
on this
you.
thing.
It's very well done. It's a nice piece of work, Al.
Thank you. All right. I'm done.
Okay. Fred, do you want to take over? We're just on the new business now. We did old business and all we have left to do is the new business, which is the committee vacancy. We did the reports, the committee vacancy and welcoming our new member.
Yes, Julia, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. We're going to put you to work. We do have one other member who's pending. New member is pending. If I could only get her to return a phone call, I think we can put it in front of the committee, the council, and hopefully get her on for our December meeting. I was hoping to have her on for today, but I, for one, am not going to nominate somebody without having contact with them, for goodness sakes, even if it's only a phone call. Ellie has spoken with her and very impressed with her. And, but I think I need to do that as chairman also, and I'll call her again today. I think maybe she just didn't understand the message or something like that. I mean, Ellie has indicated she's very enthusiastic and looking forward to working with us. And of course, we're looking forward to having her.
Yeah, I'm sure it was just miscommunication. Jim, didn't you speak to her?
Not yet, no. I was actually going to ask if you want to give my name to her, or I'll reach out to her. I'm fine with that. I have not spoken with her yet.
Does anybody know her? Katie George? Al, she's an East Puerto Rican. Do you know the name by chance? No? Okay.
No, I
Okay.
read her CV. Very impressive background.
Yeah, we'll make the contact and get her on board, I hope, as soon as possible. That's really all I have for that. Anybody have a particular date that you want to have the next meeting? Kim, when are we scheduled for? Do you know?
December 21.
Oh, see if we can do it before that. Our council meeting is on the 14th. Is that correct? Colleagues?
No,
That's not correct. No, it's not correct.
I
You're
don't,
right.
21st, same date, 21st.
Oh, the 14th is, that's in the middle of Hanukkah. Does anybody here want to have it on the 14th? The 7th isn't much time for get ready for a new meeting, but I suppose we could do it on the 7th. Yeah.
We want to make sure that the finance director is available because we need her to conclude on the audit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just to make sure.
Well, do you think the 14th is enough time?
I think so.
I definitely can't make it on the 14th. I have a commitment with Anne Arundel County Public Schools. That's mandatory.
What was wrong with the
So I
21st?
can't do it on.
Well, I would just rather have it before that rather than Christmas week. But we can do it on the 21st.
We have a council meeting that night, so.
You want to stop progress. You want to do it on the 14th. I just can't do it.
I can see Rhonda's terribly upset at the prospect of maybe missing an audit committee meeting. Trust me, you'll get over it.
No, it's the job that pays that I'm tethered to.
I know.
If you guys are tied up with a council meeting that night, just go have it on same. Why not ruin just one day instead of two?
Yeah, there's a couple things going on that day. So yeah, I agree with Al.
Sounds
Well,
good.
you want to have it on the 21st? That's fine.
We can do it.
Okay. Anybody? Okay, it's the 21st. It's a date it's presently set for. Julia, can you think you can make it?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Any other comment? Jim?
So are we all clear on what the takeaways from this meeting are that we will be addressing in the December 21 meeting?
Well, I'm not.
So
but
let's try and make it as streamlined as possible.
Yeah.
What we're addressing for December 21, because I'm sure none of us want to spend 2 hours
Right.
on the 21st of December.
Yeah, I can help you with that.
I certainly will be by the time I speak with my colleague, Ward 1.
Yeah, I can just make sure there's consensus. I think we need to focus on the finance portion of the Parks and Recs audit to have and then to address how we are responding to the consultant. That should be, 20, 25 minutes. And then there was we want to talk about for future audits, the review process, and that could be another 20 minutes.
And the RFP.
Go ahead, Al.
And the RFP.
Yeah,
I don't think that's high importance. We're not gonna be floating an
That's
RFP this year.
No.
I don't think,
no, clearly that
but just make sure that's for the record on, as a parking lot item.
All right. Well, obviously I need to sit down with Kim and with Ellie and talk about what's happened before I got here today. certainly profusely apologize for not being able to be here sooner, but got a couple of these today, couple more to go. Yes, Mike.
Yeah, you know that the performance measures are due January 15th. So
Yes.
That's our last meeting.
if you're going to be making changes, reviewing aspects of this process sooner rather than later,
All right.
because so that the city
Well-
manager's aware of, and the offices and departments are clear on what they have to do and how they have to do it.
Well, let me look at the big picture, what we did today. And hey, if we have to call a special meeting, I don't really want to do that, but if we have to, I would, and we'll get it done.
Okay. I'd probably
Okay.
confuse you. I don't think we were going to go back and address the performance measures. We were talking about addressing the audit,
Okay.
right? I think for purposes of this meeting, I think we recommended the resolution. We didn't want to delay it any further.
Okay.
Yeah, there was some discussion about changing the format, or what was received. So, just wanted to make sure that. you
Well, with the
understood
wording the resolution wording took care of that.
Okay, great.
Correct.
But guys, we're running way over, so let's wrap it up, Dave. Mr.
Yeah,
City
no, I
Manager.
would just say that the ones that you are reviewing here and that you have said you want to accept were from last January 15th. Just to be clear. So there'll be another set that are coming in, an updated set that are coming in January 15th. And just to set expectations, to hire a consultant, to have them train all the directors and to have them redo all their performance measures by January 15th is going to be impossible. So this is going to be a work in progress. We'll update the ones that we have now because it is a requirement, but I think we need to work over the next 6 months or so on really updating and improving the performance measurement system.
Okay. Anybody else? Anything for the good of the order? Again, Julia, welcome, and get to work. Do I hear any motions?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Third, and I just got here. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I don't believe there are any dissensions, but if there are, you can sit in front of your iPad all morning.